morning, a major announcement was made, and I think it's important that we pay homage to a brother of ours, a friend of yours, a mentor of yours, our very own Dr. David Banks, Mr. David Banks himself, for becoming the being named the next chancellor coming up in the next few weeks. And I just wanted to start there. As somebody who stand alongside David for a long time, and somebody who he's mentored, and you guys done a lot of work together. How does it feel to have heard the news this morning?
Well, it's the biggest not secret in New York City. But I think I am so proud, and to go to one school in one borough and pull two chancellors, like that is historic in and of itself, right? Like there's my historic appointment, but there's also the historic appointment of the greatness that comes out of LGJ. And, I thought a lot about, right? Like I follow David as principal, he follows me as chancellor. Sometimes the teacher follows the student, sometimes the student follows the teacher. But at the end of the day, there are great things to come. And so I'm excited for David, excited for what's going to happen for New York City, but also super excited about the groundwork that we were able to lay, to help him like really build forward.
Absolutely. Well, we here at OSG have had the pleasure of having Eric Adams before he won the election for mayor. We had an opportunity to spend time with David Banks before chancellor. We get a chance to spend time with you. In a little while, we're going to bring in your sister, your twin, Mayor Sean Patterson as well. I mean, we've gotten an opportunity here at OSG to really be around some inspirational people, but I think none more inspirational than you because of what you've had to endure. You took over one of the most difficult jobs on the planet during a pandemic. Talk to us, Dr. Porter. Like you, for the past 10 months, you've had to do some work. And it's not the most conventional way that things have to happen, but talk to us. Let us know how it's been for you having to lead the biggest school system in the nation during a pandemic.
Well, I was last night, I was on my last town hall as chancellor with District 11, and it was so hard to leave my school as principal. It was hard to leave District 11 as superintendent and take over the executive superintendency of the Bronx. But, for all of you all who are probably like, and I think we started here when I came on the first time, it wasn't hard to leave to take on this job because I had sat in the seat a year and a half ago, questioning, judging from afar the decisions that were being made. And so when I was asked to do this thing, I knew, it was God calling me to step up and not sit back and ask questions, but be able to really be the decision maker. And I'll tell you, like, for real, this has been the hardest thing I've ever done. I think this 10 months, it felt like 10 years, but it also has been the most rewarding, right? Like we in 10 months, we revamped summer, and I know that was hard for you all because you all really did the work, but we did that, and we did that in service of kids. We reopened our system because we knew in our most vulnerable communities, like it just wasn't working for our kids. And that was just really important. And so like I said to everybody, and still to this day, like I'm still sitting in this seat. Every day that I'm sitting in this seat, I'm gonna sit in this seat. But I think it's also important. I've really thought a lot about like what I would do at the end of this. And, I really think I was really thoughtful about what it meant for me, not only as a leader, but what it meant for me as a woman. And I really thought a lot about, what should be my next step. And I really, after you've worked the hardest, and this next thing is not going to be easy, but it is about like what brings me joy, what brings me excitement, what allows me to like explore talents that I didn't have before. And so, it has absolutely been hard, but it's also been the most rewarding. And, I walk away from this space having done everything. I've done my work. I've done everything you could possibly do in this system. And so there's nothing left for me to do here except, support y'all from the outside in any way I possibly can.
several weeks in and out of schools and, talking to young people and talking to school leaders and talking to teachers. It's just, again, been so inspirational because in the midst of being able to walk away from this and still know that you still have the connection to your borough, like the Bronx. Talk to us a little bit about what that feels like to basically be trading in your time for the classroom and visiting schools to now really transforming the Bronx and other parts of the country with a lot of the initiatives in your new role. So just talk to us a little about your new role and how that all feels.
So I am going to be the president and CEO of the Bronx Community Foundation. And it really is an opportunity to one, bring communities together across the borough, think about critical issues affecting the Bronx, come up with solutions and actually be able to fund them, right? Put money and resources behind them. And so for me, anybody who's on here who works in the Bronx and has worked with me in the Bronx knows I've been very clear about what I thought my work was as a superintendent, executive superintendent, and educator in the Bronx. And I've always said the same thing: disrupt and dismantle systemic racism, and also to retell the Bronx tale and create the new narrative, the narrative that the world doesn't know, that I know, that those of us who live and work in the Bronx know. And the foundation is going to give me the opportunity to not only do it, but to fund it and to really invest in communities. My dream is that you don't have to rebuild a community by gentrifying it. You can actually build a community with the people in it and give them access to high quality housing, high quality healthcare. Let them build the community that they want and imagine, and provide resources to do just that. So I'm embarking on another journey and another mission, but I'm also I'm 48. I got years to work. And so it's about also what's the next thing for me? What, it is really for me about and I know a lot of OSG, that's why we all swagged out, right? A lot of OSG is also about how you brand and tell your story. And so for me, the Misha brand is well, how do you build on it after you've been a chancellor of New York City Public Schools? What's the next thing? And I think for me, that was really important, but it was also important to come back to my community and to know that the Bronx deserves me, and I deserve the Bronx, and it deserves a champion who has a voice that's been, really enlarged by this space that I've been able to occupy for the last 10 months.
What is the greatest lesson you learned in your service as chancellor, and what have you learned about yourself?
The greatest lesson I learned is that you can really you can shift the system, and you can impact what happens in classrooms between students and between babies and teachers from the highest seat, if you're asking the right question, if you're challenging people in the right way. My hope, and my advice to my friend is that you really do the work to turn this system inside out. The highest paid people are the least accountable people in this system. And that's unacceptable. And it needs to be turned around to work in service of principals and teachers and school communities. And so, and it's possible if the leader is asking the right question. I always try to bring into my next role, my last role. And in this role, I tried to bring all my roles: Misha the student, Misha the teacher, Misha the principal, Misha the superintendent, all the roles that I played in the system, I tried to bring into this moment. And the biggest thing I learned about myself, it was just my power. And Dennis talked about, right? I remember when we were in the random diner in Queens when I first met Dennis, and he was like, "Yo, you're the most powerful woman in New York City." And I'm like, huh? And, we don't, and I actually was having lunch with a colleague today who was I said, I'm going to, take a moment, step back. And they were like, "You are never going to be able to step back." And so, this position has helped me really recognize my power.
I've followed you obviously through OSG from a little bit from afar. But one of the things I keep seeing among so many of these incredible people here at OSG is they talk about how the schools are the centers of the communities in today's world. And now stepping out of the schools into a direct community organization, how do you help both support the schools, but also kind of do your own thing, because you have a little bit of a different opportunity to impact and interact with the community when you're not in a school setting. But I think the marriage of those two will just be so powerful.
Great question, Cousin Mark. And I completely agree with you. One of the things that I said when I took on this role was the foundation. It's like, there's not, I thank you for dropping the article, but if you check out the website, there's not an education agenda. So I can get to build that. And I believe that. I believe in now more than ever, like school. I mean, how many of y'all got washer and dryers in your school, got community schools, got after school program, feeding kids breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? Like have adult ed programs for families, got, teaching parents English, right? Like there's so many, providing dental care, eye care, right? Like school is the hub of the community. And I'll tell you, like my push towards our mayor-elect is get the leaders of the system all working in service of schools. And so get commissioners collaborating, ACS, NYPD, right? Like housing, like get them really collaborating and in service of communities, and school is the hub of that. Right? Like really lean into that. And I look forward to, that's why, Dennis is like the whisperer. Like Thea says, I got Dennis today, but I went to, Farrow,
Farrow's Academy with Travis
Farrow's
Brown.
Academy. And like, I was just like blown away by like, one, the facilities, what they're doing for kids there every day. And just the brilliance and joy and celebration of the Bronx throughout that building. And I just, and keep having kids from K to 12 in that space. Like it's just powerful. And so imagine if those young people have an opportunity to access the resources of the foundation to transform their communities, but also if the foundation has the opportunity to, build partnerships with CBOs, with nonprofits, with for-profit organizations, but really keeping school as the hub. And I really believe that now more than ever.
First of all, thank you, because like you said, you've been at my school every single time. Every time you've been there, you've always, and we worked on the advisory, diversity advisory group together. And that was an incredible amount of work to do. So, and I know we both were pushing for the same thing. My whole agenda, I was going, I don't even know how I got selected to go there from the very beginning.
Me either.
And I was like, who said that I should be a part of this group? And they said, no, somebody recommended you. I say, okay, well, just know that I have a personal agenda for the Bronx when I go in there. Right. And I appreciated it so much because the thing that I noticed having a child who went to high school, I always tell the story about how my son in high school was 7 points away from passing a specialized exam. And his number one school that he always wanted to go to was Bronx Science, which was actually 14 minutes from my house when I lived in the Bronx, but he couldn't go. So he had to take two trains and a bus to go to Bard Early College downtown to get the same education. And then my experience in being in Bard is that there was an opportunity gap that exists in the Bronx, and that those kids, they had a weekly person send out all of these different internships and activities and externships that kids can get involved in. And some of them existed right in the Bronx, but they didn't come to me. They came to my child and his white counterparts in Bard. And I was like, this is baffling to me. I'm right here in the Bronx and I'm not getting these opportunities to participate in Wave Hill and in the botanical gardens. And why is this opportunity gap existing and that I can't get? So I start copying all of their emails and was sending. It was like, email all these people and get their, reach out to them so that our kids can get those opportunities. So I'm so glad to have you selfishly back in the Bronx full time. I always knew that you were coming back some way, somehow. So I'm glad to selfishly have you back in the Bronx because we need you to help us close this opportunity gap that exists within our communities. That's why I made that comment about whatever's happening in Manhattan today. When you made that face, she was like, what you talking about? Then he was like, oh, I know what you're talking about today. But I'm like, whatever they have in Manhattan, I want to have in the Bronx because they deserve it as well. So I, again, appreciate you. And you're like how Obama was our forever president. You're my forever chancellor.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Misha.
I'm going to need me a shirt.
I got you, boo. I got you.
Wait, where's in the lioness? I'm gonna need me my chance to look like me shirt too. Like where my shirts at?
You know, that was my hashtag from March, girl.
It was. I just want to say, because I want to really appreciate Asia, because, you know, when I walked in your office and saw those babies and smelled those babies, right? Like those were the kids who were always drawn to me as a leader, and they need us. They need you and all your flyness to sit with them, give them space and time, and let them know, no matter what mistakes they made, no matter how they showed up. That's why I acknowledged, like, I smell you, sis, because I wanted them to know, like, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend. But I, you know, those are the kids that become the most powerful beings because of their impact and time and space with you. So, you know, I'm a huge Asia fan and will always be, and look forward to leveraging your leadership in my next role also.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
There is something so special and organic about the love that you two have for the type of communities that we work in. And it was only right that I said, you know what, this is going to be our last meetup for this calendar year, but I definitely feel like I need to get these two powerhouses together to talk that ish about what we know is best for communities such as the Bronx and Mount Vernon, because we are literally, we're neighbors. You know what I'm saying?
We're neighbors, and I'm
We're
coming
neighbors.
back uptown.
Hey.
And so I know
So-
y'all two got some work to do.
So Chancellor Porter, I just want to say congratulations on the elevation and congratulations in this transition, because while you led the largest school district in the country, you've done that, right? And you've done that successfully. But now you get to come back into a community layer where there is far less bureaucracy, and there is an opportunity to be more innovative and creative in doing what you do. So know and believe, I support the educational goals that you have for our young people. And, you know, not just in my mayoralty, but in my 30 years plus of being a human services person, from food insecurity to public health to mental and emotional wellness, you know, to building community schools, to increasing the capacity of our parents to serve and advocate and partner on behalf of the educational outcomes of their children. Please know that I have a very deep community-based and faith-based network, as well as, you know, so many other type of networks, and that we are more than happy to work with you, to partner with you, to support with you in what you're doing. So thank you for standing tall, for standing proud, for standing firm and sure. And I can tell you, I'm sitting where I am now.
Yes.
But it's interesting. When I got sworn in March 17th, 2016, as the first Black woman in the state of New York to be a planning commissioner. And I served at the pleasure of then Mayor Richard Thomas. 9 months later, I was fired and walked out the building. Now, that didn't necessarily happen to you, but sometimes we don't understand that even if God puts us in a place for a short time, that gives us even more influence later. And he can bring you into doors, into places in ways that you could never imagine. I felt a way then, and it was very public, and it didn't feel good, sis. I don't care how strong we put that face on in public, it didn't feel good, you know, and I'm not here now as revenge. I'm here now because whatever God wanted to happen during that 9 months, he used that time. Yes. 9 months is enough time to birth a baby.
Amen.
So we don't know what yet God is birthing in the 9 months that he had you in that position. And we don't know what this baby is going to grow into, but I am confident with everything in me that it is going to be amazing, and that your latter days will be greater than your past. So I'm trusting, and I'm letting you know that I'm here to seek, to sow in, and to support whatever God has used this 9 month period as an incubator. And it does not yet appear what it shall be, but we know whatever it is that it's going to be God. It's going to be God. So just trust in that. Amen. Trust in that. And you will be shocked, but the cost of the anointing and the cost of the glory of God and the cost of the favor that he is going to give to you, the cost of it is high. It is high. But there are certain things that we all desire that we can never get a discount from. And anything that is valuable has either been refined in fire or has been crushed. Every type of precious metal has been refined through the fire. And every diamond, every gem, every precious gem and jewel has gone through pressure and had to be mined out. And the pressure is not comfortable, and the mining and carving out is not comfortable. Pressure bursts pipes, but also pressure makes gems. And so, my sis, you're not bursting, you're being created for a gem, and the value going forward will be greater than the value than anyone's ever known. So be encouraged and continue to stand.